Coming up on Aggie Sports Overtime, the rematch everyone has been waiting for has finally arrived. The Alabama Crimson Tide visit Kyle Field to take on the Aggies in a top 10 battle. We've got the highlights and post-game reaction from today's top billing.
That big game also means big personalities. ESPN's College Game Day goes live from Aggieland. We'll take a look at all of the pregame excitement.
And while A&M and Bama take the main stage, the rest of the SEC is keeping busy as well, including a matchup between Ole Miss and the Texas Longhorns. It's time to yell. Aggie Sports Overtime starts right now.
Welcome to Aggie Sports Overtime. And now, here's Luke Simons and Chris Vlahos.
To be the best, you have to beat the best. Today, the Aggies were hoping they could do just that as they host the #1 team in the nation, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Thanks for joining us. I'm Luke Simons with Chris Vlahos.
It's a game that has been circled on the calendar ever since the Aggies rolled the Tide last year in Tuscaloosa, 29-24. Today, it was time for the rematch.
And of course, a lot of focus in this game given to the quarterbacks. A.J. McCarron with his back-to-back national titles. How about Johnny Manziel, the reigning Heisman winner? Manziel going to strike first. Opening drive of this game, Manziel runs into Trey Carson, but still manages to hit tight end Cameron Clear. They went 84 yards on that drive to take a 7-0 lead. A&M's defense starts off really well. How about Nate Askew going to get the tackle on third down? Aggies force a 3-and-out. Bama has to punt. On the ensuing drive, check out the pass by Johnny Manziel. Finds Mike Evans down the sideline. Evans brings it in and is knocked out at the 1-yard line. Senior Ben Molina going to punch it in from there. And just like that, the Aggies off to a great start, up 14-0. Now the second drive for the Tide, a little bit different than their first. They get the offense going. McCarron gonna lob it up for Kevin Norwood. Look at him go up, grab it, and fall into the end zone. That's gonna cut the lead in half, 14-7. In the second quarter, it's the same score. Bama gets the ball back on the 44-yard line. They go with the flea flicker. Ball is sent back to McCarron. He finds a wide open DeAndrew White. That touchdown would tie the game at 14-all. Now the Aggies would come back and drive inside the 5, but Manziel's only mistake of the first half comes right there. Lobs it up, but Cyrus Jones gets the interceptions, keeps A&M from taking the lead. The ensuing drive, quick pass outside to Kenny Bell. He makes one tackler miss, and then he's gone. 51 yards to the house gave Bama the lead. The Tide scored 28 unanswered points. They were up 28-14 at the break.
Now move ahead to the third quarter. Aggies down 14. Manziel trying to come up with something, throws downfield. The pass is batted in the air. As Coach Sumlin would say, it hit our guy in the head. Vinny Sunseri is going to rumble 73 yards the other way, moving quickly, dives into the end zone. Bama now up 21 points. So it's gut check time for the Aggies. A&M not giving up. They go to the right side where it's Malcolm Kennedy for the score. He had that big touchdown last year in Tuscaloosa. So now it's 42-28, fourth quarter, 9 minutes left. Bama tries to punch it in, and it's a fumble. The ball's on the turf, and the Ags have it. The stadium absolutely erupts because there's a chance. And when there's a chance, that means it's Mike Evans. Down the right side, makes the catch, and the former basketball player with a stiff arm, and he keeps on rolling. Had 279 yards receiving, but would it be in a win? Manziel threw for 464 yards. Aggies need a stop late, and they won't get it. Instead, the Tide go play-action pass inside the red zone with 15 seconds left in the fourth. A&M not giving up. Manziel to the corner. Again, it's Malcolm Kennedy, but just not enough time. 49-42, what a game, but #1 wins. Here are the Aggies after the loss.
In any game like that, there's going to be a winner and a loser, and it's not what happens to you right now. It's how you deal with it from here on out. You know, last year we were a team that was dancing around in their field and having a good time, and they probably felt like we feel right now. And I said, you know, you got no greater example of how to handle one game than the team in the other locker room.
So here's a look at the final score. The Aggies fall short 49-42 despite a school record 464 passing yards from Johnny Manziel. He also ran for 98. Mike Evans had a record-setting day. His 279 yards receiving, the most in school history. topping the mark of 250 yards set by Ken Dude McLean in 1965. That game was against the University of Texas. Now, Bama's running game, the difference. The Tide ran for 234 yards, 149 of those yards from T.J. Yeldon. He had a big day on the ground. Alabama now 2-0. The Aggies dropped to 2-1.
Number 1 versus number 6 turned into a matchup of number 10 versus number 2. The Tide and the Aggies combined for nearly 1,200 yards of offense. A.J. McCarron and Johnny Manziel made up a big part of that offense. Decorated national champion McCarron went 20 of 29 with 334 yards passing and 4 TDs, while Manziel 28 of 39, 464 passing, 5 TDs, 98 yards on the ground, but 2 costly interceptions that turned the game in the Tide's favor.
He did what he does every weekend, and that's plays great and plays with a lot of effort. So I mean, he played normal to me.
He's played a lot of football, and he's got a lot of weapons out there. That's a good football team. I mean, you got to stop the run. You got to stick them down in there to stop the run. And we knew it was going to be a day of big plays. And I'm sure when I go back and look at the film, if you count out the number of big plays and subtract that yardage, you have a pretty good day.
Here's a look at how the two quarterbacks compared in today's game. Both QBs very efficient with their throws. Manziel did throw for 130 more yards and also ran for 98. The biggest difference, as I mentioned, those interceptions. Manziel picked off twice while McCarron kept the mistakes to a minimum. Pretty impressive day by both signal callers this afternoon.
Now, for the last 8 months, all it seemed anyone was talking about regarding college football was today's Bama and A&M game. Revenge versus validation. But the feeling inside the Texas A&M locker room was this Saturday was just another game. Following this loss, quarterback Johnny Manziel continued to echo those sentiments.
To be honest, as much as people tried to say that it was such a big game, I know for the guys in the locker room and the guys who were experienced, I probably came out less nervous today than I was any other games. I mean, what did we have to lose? The pressure wasn't on us. The pressure was on Alabama to try and three-peat and do all this stuff. We were just going to go out and play our hearts out and leave it all on the field, and that's all we could do.
Good to hear Johnny Manziel again after this game. So the loss means the Aggies now 2-1 on the season, 0-1 in SEC play. Alabama now owns the tiebreaker between those two schools. Next up for the Maroon and White, the highly anticipated showdown. Of course, a little bit of sarcasm there with SMU at 6 o'clock. That one inside Kyle Field. They're definitely going to have to keep up for that one because not quite the atmosphere I think that they had this Saturday.
Probably a bit of a letdown, maybe not for the team, but I would say for the fans it's going to be a lot less than it was today.
Either way, the Aggies still have to get back to work. Now, still to come, the other SEC teams were also in action today. We'll take a look at those highlights.
But it wasn't just the game that had fans excited. College Game Day was in Aggieland for the second time in 2 years. Check out the game day experience next.